podcast rocks. And I'm here with Ben. And today we're going to review Signals by Folklore. So tell me, how did you come across this one, my friend?
Man, so years ago, man, I was on another social media site. I'll leave it unnamed at this point, whatever. It's kind of controversial, whatever. And I ran into this guy trying to promote my stuff, and we crossed paths, and we kind of exchanged long story short, we exchanged informations. I said, "Hey, I do music." He said, "Hey, I do music." So, that's how we crossed paths, and I ran across his stuff, and we've become friends over the years, and we kind of bullshit back and forth. Um, via we don't call or Skype or anything like that. And I discovered this particular album, Signals, man, and his lineup got all of his albums, and supporting a fellow brother, metalhead, and an unknown artist and everything, just like he did me. And I really like this album. There's just something special to it. I don't know what it is, and so yeah, man.
Yeah, upon listening to it, I got the same vibe. The guy's able to picture a scheme that puts you in a cinematic feel right from the riff.
For sure.
The first track, especially Tether, upon listening to that track, when I heard it, the rhythmic pattern really sets a tone. And I like an album that starts out with something that casts out and pulls you in right at the beginning and shows you what you're in for the rest of the ride. And I think that track really does that. And with the rhythm line from the very beginning, it just, man, it just pulled me in. And, I'll tell you what, if you could make the perfect soundtrack to a slasher movie, I think this track would be on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got that too immediately, just like an intro to a movie. I mean, he kind of sets the stage for what you're going to get to hear the rest of the album. I think and it is. I mean, it is like it's a movie opener, soundtrack opener, and right off, you talk about right off the bat. He hits it, and I get immediate. He's got a really just um, good Lane Staley influence in his vocals. And I mean, and it shines. And he's not trying to be Lane, and he's not trying to be Alice in Chains. And he's told me that, Alice was a big, influence on his stuff. And I would assume I hadn't talked about it, but maybe Tool also. You get Tool vibes. But
Yeah.
he's not trying to be Alice. He's not trying to be Tool. And just um, it's crazy how he's able to kind of do it in his own style without copying someone.
Yeah, I think also with the track it's one that with the way he changes the tempos and he changes direction, keeps you totally immersed, and you're always wondering, what am I going to hear next? And what
Yeah,
lines? And I love that feel and that excitement, and it's what keeps you immersed in the track.
yeah, for sure. He's a big fan of droning too, and stuff, and that's not necessarily a lot of the stuff I listen to, but he does it so well and builds it up through drones. Most people will do, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is like frontline assembly, some of their chuggy drones or whatever, and I picked out some frontline sounds, later on in the album too. Um, but yeah, he's I don't know how he does it. Whatever. He told me that this was a very very challenging album for him to write. He said he just had held doing it, and maybe that's why I liked it, is because
Yeah,
he was he just had some issues, and he threw all he had at it. So
beckoning is track two. I think this is a good follow up to the track because it builds off of what was given to you before. It keeps you in line with what's going on. And I love at 5:23 in the track, the haunting feel
yeah,
that you get in that. It just really grabs you, and it almost gives you a chill because you're
yeah,
not expecting it at that time. And when it hits well.
yeah. I get immediately off the bat for this song. I get either frontline assembly vibes, some of their, driving stuff, or old school White Zombie, without trying to be White
Mm.
Zombie. And I remember the first time I listened to it, I was expecting it to kind of roll into something else, whatever. Just immediately, it was all I heard was White Zombie. I'm like, wow, man, this is jamming, dude.
Yeah.
And then it goes into something else. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't have his lyrics. I don't know what he's saying, but he's got gutturals that would make me hoarse trying to do this. Just a, that he pulls
Yeah.
off. I don't know how he does it, man. And he layers his vocals too so well on this stuff, and it works. I mean, they complement each other, and I honestly feel it works. And I'm not just saying that because he's my buddy. I really dig the piss out of this. So
And it follows up with my favorite track, which is Society. I think Society is, in my opinion, the strongest track on the album. And in listening to it, it pictures to me, I can see New York on a busy day and people bustling in the streets. I see the changes in them working a day, working a job out in a cubicle that uh, maybe they're not too interested in what they're really doing and working for the man. And then at the end, I get this feel of the resurgence that a person gets when coming home. I think it paints a beautiful picture, and I have no idea if that's the picture he is painting, but it's definitely the one I received upon listening to the track. And musically, this is by far, in my opinion, the best piece of material on this album.
yeah, man, agreed. And that's funny because this song was the actual song that kind of spurred my interest in this album. The breakdown, I have some notes here, so I am cheating a little bit. It's the breakdown at 5 when it kind of starts mellowing out. I didn't know what to expect of the song, when it first starts off. He's got some cool harmonies going. I don't know if it's a third or fifth harmony or whatever that he's doing. Um, but yeah, and I've never thought of it that way either, about the picture that he's trying to paint, and what he's trying to convey in it. But I music is very relative to everybody, and that's the beauty behind it, is like you can take away something different than I can. And yeah, the breakdown was absolutely what sold me. And I'm not trying to condone drinking or drug use or anything, but when that breakdown hit, it reminded me immediately of a Soulfly released an album back in 2005, I believe, called Dark Ages. And the song was Stay Strong. And at the end of it, they kind of had this drawn out breakdown that just, it repeated and repeated and kind of lulled you into just comfort. Yeah, comfort is the best way that I can describe it. And he really does a good job in it. He uses some kind of weird sonar sounding drums in it that
Yes.
just, and it just, man, I go to sleep to this song a lot, believe it or not, man. I'll have a few tequilas, brother, and lay down and put this track on, and I'm out, and that's a good thing. That some people say, well, yeah, you go to sleep to boring stuff. No, man, not at all. It's good, peaceful stuff. I love this song. This is my favorite on the album for sure.
And then we go into Fever, and I think the placement of this track is perfect on this release, because this track, if you was to pick the odd man out, I think this was the track. This goes back to more of a standard conventional form of writing, and it showcases other talents that this man possesses. And he presents it well. I think maybe upon listening to it, maybe this song was maybe something that was in the works for another project that was left behind, or maybe just to break away from what is going on with the album at the time. I enjoyed the track, but immediately upon listening to it, I felt it was almost like a side breaker, like an end to side one going into side two.
Yeah, yeah. It starts out, and just because I love Catatonia, man. I love those guys. Immediately I heard Catatonia influence in it. And so maybe you're right. Maybe there it was for something else. And that's the cool part, the mystery. But like listening to this track, I was just listening to it a little bit ago. I still expect Jonas. to come on and lay his vocals over the top of it and break into a Catatonia song, and it just kind of takes you on a different, it goes more down a what I would call a doomier path. It's got
Mhm.
it's got kind of slower halftime feel to it. That's Catatonia uses they use some kind of weird upbeat stuff and able to convey a halftime feel to me. I don't know. That's just kind of my takeaway from it. But yeah, this is a good track, and it makes me feel good too listening to it. The whole Catatonia stuff, I
Yes.
dig it, man.
And then we go into Harbor, and I think this is our way of coming back into everything that we have explored before. The great time changes, the great nuances. This definitely paints a picture of the sea and the rage of the waves, and you get that feel in the music, and it definitely had me totally immersed. And one thing you cannot deny about this artist is the visual scaping that he does through music is absolutely phenomenal. It's
Agreed.
one thing you cannot take away.
Yeah, yeah. Immediately, he uses a lot of really cool tones. Speaking of tones, I think he uses Black Star, is what he said. I told him after listening to this album, I said, "Dude, I said, what are you using? What's your tone? Because I'm a tone whore. I go from 5150s to Friedmans to those tones. I don't have those amps. I don't care to own them or whatever. I use all digital." But he said he used Black Star, and is that Black Star, and yeah, he starts off using some triads, man, and double chords right off the bat. He just makes it work. Yeah, he's able to meld everything together, and you know, it morphs to some crazy harmonies, man. About
Oh
9 minutes in, you know, and one of the things I want to say about this track, he ends with acoustics, and
yeah.
I'm a big fan of acoustics in metal, tastefully, and I love playing acoustics. I don't play it near enough, and this song actually made me want to hear more acoustics in this track and moving forward. And I think he does in some other stuff too. Some of his other albums. I
Yes.
haven't listened to him as much as this, but the acoustics are really what sold me on this song for sure.
And going to that and exploring his past albums, one thing I did notice with him is that there's no bound or limits to what he can do and will do. He's not, this is not an artist that is stuck in a place that, like in that AC/DC space where we're going to do this and this is all we're going to do because this is what we do best. He explores different things and he pulls them off well. I think, though, that this Signals is an album that definitely defines his wheelhouse and pulls all his strengths together.
Yeah, he's got a really big progressive music influence, whatever, from what I've seen. I mean, I don't know, the tapestry that he pulls from per se, but I know Opeth is a big, just as it is with me and a lot of people too. Some of my buddies up in the Dallas Fort Worth area, the Funeral Procession, they're huge into Opeth, and Opeth is a great band. And I remember
Mm,
Michael Ackerfeld saying he doesn't want to hear anybody else that sounds like Opeth, and I don't think that Folklore, and it's just him, it's just Cody himself doing this stuff, and
sure.
I believe his buddy Chad has helped him with some drum parts as well. I could be wrong on that, so Cody, I apologize if I'm wrong on that, but he's very well rounded. I mean, he draws from a bunch of different reservoirs of influence, man, and yeah, bravo, man, the way that he does not make everything sound the same.
Sure. Also, you can even, upon my listening, I don't know of his background, but I get feelings of like King Crimson, Starless, and Bible Black in this as
Sure.
well.
Yeah,
That whole
maybe.
feel. Last track is Signals, which is the title track. And I think this is a great finishing track. I mean, I was just blown away because I felt this was a great way of tying everything together and making it full and empty, ending on a great note. It's almost like like the movie has ended and we're coming to that high point, and here it is, and it didn't disappoint. A lot of times I find myself disappointed in the last track of an album because I feel it was a throwaway track. So we'll just put it on the end and let it be there. This is definitely not the case with this track. The soundscape on this track is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like you and I had similar takeaways from this, and that it was a very well thought out and put together, concise idea that he was able to capture. Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I have my notes written here. I mean, um, I caught Opeth, early Opeth, Morning Rise and Orchid vibes just right off the beginning. He started with that, and then he moves into some haunting vocals at 6 minutes in, around 6 minutes,
Yeah.
30 seconds in, wailing almost is kind of what I got. And it was like I don't know where that was coming from or what that was directed at, but wailing was the word that I used to describe it, And then he goes into an acoustic melody, folky. Um, it was almost like the way I took about it, was thanking the listener for making it through that entirety of the album and to the end, and really kind of taking a bow and showing appreciation. That's what I took away from this end track. It was, yeah, the acoustic. Like I said, I want to hear more acoustics from him. He's a hell of a songwriter, and so yeah.
Yeah, the talent is definitely there, and I was definitely surprised that this isn't a larger artist than this man is, because the talent is definitely there, and I was just like, wow. And there's times where you just go to yourself and you're like, man, I hear this and I hear all these tones and all these transitions that are just that bring me to a place where I haven't been before, and it's just an amazing ride. And this journey in this album has totally been a great one and made me go back into his catalog because, man, I just wanted more.
Yeah, I know he appreciates the hell out of that. I've been giving him props, since I've known him, man, since I've listened to his stuff. And it's not because, he's a buddy, whatever. I'd tell somebody straight up if I didn't really like their music.
Sure.
With that being said, it really is easy to get lost. And I'm a person that likes to listen to an album from front to back. I don't typically, pick out a song and listen to it, or have one song on a playlist unless it's, country or George Strait or Dwight Yoakam or something like that. Out back in the pool. But I like a good soundscape, and that's what he was able to do, is create a good soundscape, man. And one of my final thoughts on this actual song, whatever, kind of wrapping up the album, is that he's saying he'll be back, and he is. He's back, and yeah, I agree. He absolutely needs a bigger fan base, and that's funny you say that, because I was talking to him this morning when I woke up, and he had told me that he is in the process of getting all these distributed through all these other streaming sites, the Spotify, Apple, all of those, whatever. So Folklore is coming, man. And I've been telling him for a long time. I said, man, the world's ready for you, brother. I think you need
Sure,
to.
absolutely.
I think you need to distribute this where, in a mainstream way, where people can access it. Bandcamp's great. He's on Bandcamp, and it's really, really great. But I feel like he needs to have a more broader, a more broad um, audience that can access this stuff.
Yeah, and also, as far as his guitar work, um, the thought comes to mind, especially in the track Society, was David Gilmour.
Oh, okay.
Just had
I
this
can see that.
David Gilmour feel.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah, like I said, I don't know his personal influences. I could probably pick them all apart, just based on his catalog of music. But I don't know who his guitar heroes are. But he's done a really good job of not directly copying people, at least from what
Sure,
I've heard. So
absolutely. I totally agree. And I wanted to thank you definitely for picking out this artist and this particular album, because I enjoyed it from top to bottom. If I was to rate this album, I'd give it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for sure. This is at least a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I would have some critiques just because I'm learning the process. You know, one of them is, and it's not a bad thing. Some of my favorite albums were recorded in a bathroom. You know, he told me that he produced these albums with Audacity, which is a digital audio workstation, whatever. But I think it's very limited in what it can do. But it's really surprised me how he's able to get such a good, concise sound for all of his stuff, and he's
Yeah, the
just
mix
gotten
is
better.
good.
Yeah, he's able to get a really good mix with everything, and you know, sometimes, you know, when I go back and listen to some of the older stuff, you know, the really, you know, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you know, where it's hard to hear, but it doesn't matter if the production is crap. If the music's good, that's really what matters, and he's nailed that.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I want to thank you again for picking this one. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us discuss this album. And tune in next month. We'll be doing this monthly, and we'll be bringing the music to the people.
killer. Yeah, I do want to plug him. So for everybody watching, right now his stuff isn't available on Spotify or any of the other major streaming. So if you're watching this and it's not out yet, you can check him out at evergrimrecordings.bandcamp.com and send him some love. Tell him Bob at Rock sent you, and tell him Nana Winston sent you, and he'll really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm ready for him to get some exposure.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Bob.
You have a great rest of your day.
You too, brother. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Cheers.